everyone, welcome or welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Emily. Thanks so much for being here. Today, as you probably saw, we're going to be talking about the books that I want to read in the fall of this year off of my physical TBR. So I started this last season, which would have been summer, and I put aside like 15 books off of my physical TBR that I wanted to read over the course of summer, which I considered June, July, and August. So now I'm going to be talking about 15 books that I want to read from September, October, November. And I picked 15 books because I figure that's about 5 books a month for the season, and I think I can fit that in to the TBR pretty well. So I mainly have fantasy books and thrillers, but I do have a few romances that I just feel fit the season, so I'll talk about those first. The first one is The Rule Book by Sarah Adams. This is the second in the, I think, like same universe as The Cheat Sheet was, which I just read a few months ago. And now I believe this is like a second chance romance. So it is an college exes reunite years later from in this enemies to lovers second chance romance. And it is a companion novel to The Cheat Sheet. I really liked The Cheat Sheet. It was a closed door romance. This, I believe, is her first open door, like actual spicy book, which that doesn't bother me. So I'm interested to see, because I've listened to the audiobooks for When in Rome and Practice Makes Perfect, and then I've read The Cheat Sheet. So it'll be interesting to see how much this differs from those two, because those were also closed door. So she's his agent, he's an NFL player, and they're both like holding grudges against each other. So like basically his career is in her hands and her career is in his hands, and they have to figure out a way to make that work. And obviously there's going to be, I think, some type of rekindling of their college romance in this. So I figured since it was football, I know it looks summery, but it's football, and football to me is a fall sport. So picked that one out to read. I also have Mixed Signals by B.K. Borison on here. This was technically the summer book in this little like Love Light Farms quartet, but I figure if I try to read this in September, it'll still feel summery. And Business Casual just came out actually right before I'm filming this. So I want to pick that up and read that in the actual fall time. So I want to get this read before fall is over. And this is a small town baker learns to raise her expectations for love with some help from a handsome local teacher in this sunny romantic comedy. So I believe this was Caleb, and then Layla, who was the chef at the Lovelight Farms. And for some reason I thought Caleb was a cop, but maybe not. So I think this is fake dating, no strings attached dating to help her renew her faith in men. So basically a fake dating trope. So I do love this. I loved Lovelight Farms. I have not read In the Weeds yet, which was the spring book that is on my TBR for August. So I'm hoping to get that read, and then hopefully can get this one done in September so that I can read Business Casual. Hopefully October, November timeframe. I do want to read this series by the end of 2024. This is one of the series I want to complete by the end of 2024. So gotta make some progress on it. And then the final romance is Funny Feelings by Tara DeWitt. This just looks like fall to me with the rain and this like, they're not sunflowers, but they're like that color daisy. And I think this is 2 stand-up comedians, and it's also fake dating. So we'll see how that goes. I think there's like tragedies and everything, you know, there has to be some angst in here. And I think, okay, so it looks like they've been like really close friends, and he is vital to her career. So she doesn't want to screw that up, but they do end up fake dating, and obviously real feelings probably come from that. So I have not read a Tara DeWitt book. I think I might have listened to one of her audiobooks, but I've never actually read one of her books. So we'll see how that is. But I love stand-up comedy. So when I saw that this was 2 stand-up comedians, I figured I had to pick it up. Now on to thrillers. The first one I have is You Shouldn't Have Come Here by Geneva Rose. I have read one Geneva Rose book, and there's another one that she has out that I really want to pick up, and it's the one, I can't remember what it's called, but it looks like a VHS tape, and that's basically the reason I want to pick it up. So this is about a woman that goes and escapes to a ranch in the middle of Wyoming. It's an Airbnb, and there's like a handsome owner that is there when she arrives, but then she finds out there's like a lack of cell phone service, a missing woman, and a feeling that something isn't quite right with the ranch. Despite her uneasiness, the 2 bond and start to fall for one another. However, as her departure date nears, things change for the worse. What began as a playful romance soon turns into a complicated web of lies. So like, I guess he starts to become obsessed with her, and he fears that she is hiding something, including for her reason for staying at this ranch to begin with. Deception, obviously murder probably. On a missing woman, it may not be murder, we'll see. I think it was The Perfect Marriage that I read by her, and it was good, but this just looked really interesting, and I saw it at Barnes & Noble on the buy one get one table, so I picked it up. It doesn't have the best ratings, I don't think, on Goodreads, but I'm trying to not let Goodreads decide if I purchase a book. I try not to. Then I have A Door in the Dark by Scott Rentigen. This is a YA mystery thriller, I believe, and it's kind of a dark academia thing with wizards. So this is a little bit fantasy, a little bit thriller. I think when I looked it up, it was actually listed as a thriller before it was listed as fantasy, so that's why it's lumped in with the thrillers. Our main character, Ren, has spent 4 years proving she's one of the best wizards of her generation, but top marks will mean nothing if she can't get recruited into one of the major houses. Enter Theo. If being rich were a sin, he'd already be halfway to hell. After a disastrous party trick, fate has them crossing paths at the public waxway portal the day before the holidays, and Theo's punishment is to travel home with the scholarship kids, which doesn't sit well with any of them. A fight breaks out in the chaos, the portal spell malfunctions, 6 students are snatched from the safety of the school's campus and set down in the middle of nowhere, and one of them is dead on arrival. So then they must have to work together to get back to school. This is part of the Waxway series. The second book came out recently, and that's how I saw this one because it was sitting on the table with it at Barnes. So I figured I'd pick this one up. If I like it, I'll pick up the second one when it comes out in paperback, but it looks interesting. I love a little bit of magic. Obviously love thrillers, and it just seems like the perfect vibes for the fall. Next, I have Final Girls by Riley Sager. So this is about Final Girls. For those of you that don't know, if you know thrillers, if you know horror movies, Final Girls are the last girl standing in a horror movie or a horror story. 10 years ago, college student Quincy Carpenter went on vacation with 5 friends and came back alone. So she is a final girl. In an instant, she became a member of a club no one wants to belong to, a group of similar massacre survivors known in the press as the Final Girls. There's a few of them. I think there's 3 listed on the back. So now she's doing well, but then one night, one of the girls in that group is found dead in her bathtub, wrist slit, and the other girl in their group shows up on Quincy's doorstep, intent on making Quincy relive the past. So Quincy can't really remember, I guess, what happened to her the night that all of her friends passed or whatever, but now new details about Lisa's death have come to light, and Quincy's life becomes a race against time as she tries to unravel Sam's truth from her lies and remember what really happened at Pine Cottage before. So, kind of confused about what this is about, but it seems like a girl can't remember what happened when she went on a trip and came back alone. There's these other girls in this group that she's part of, the Final Girls group. One is found dead, don't know how, and all of the lies and everything come to unravel. So, we'll see. I've liked the Riley Sager books I've read so far. I've only read 2 of them. As of filming this video, I've only read 2 of them. I will have probably read at least 3 by the time I get to that one. We will see how Final Girls stacks up against the rest of them. Then I have The Chateau by Jacqueline Goldis. This I picked up on vacation, and from what I remember, it's about these girls that go stay at this chateau because they studied abroad together and visited this old woman when they were abroad, and now they've come back 20 years later, and each of the women has hidden a reason for returning to the estate after all these years. Then, following a wild evening celebrations, one of them is found brutally murdered. In the midst of this, a sinister Instagram account pops up exposing snapshots from the friends' intimate moments in the chateau while threatening to reveal more. Secrets, lies, deception, girls that probably don't know each other as well as they thought they did just because they bonded over study abroad program years earlier, and something obviously was worth killing one of them over. So we'll see how that... It just looked cool. I picked up this in another book in one of the bookstores at the beach and just told my sister, go off cover, pick one of these, and she picked this one. So if it's not good, it's her fault. But I'm kidding. Then the last thriller I have is The Reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson. Basic synopsis I know of this is that there's this woman, Rachel Price, went missing, and years later they're starting to do a documentary covering what happened, and in the midst of filming this, she reappears. And then the rest of the book, I'm assuming, is discovering what actually happened. I've heard mixed reviews about this. I liked A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. It was not a 5-star series for me. I liked it. I enjoyed 5 Survive. That was an interesting, quick, fast-paced YA thriller read, so I'm hoping that this just hits the spot with that as well. But Holly Jackson's been a very, safe author for me. I've enjoyed her books. None of them have been outstanding, but I haven't disliked any of them so far, so I had to pick this one up when it came out. And now finally on to fantasy, which will finish out the books for the fall. The first is King of Scars by Leigh Bardugo. This is the last part of the Grishaverse that I have to read. This and Rule of Wolves, which is a duology, so need to finish this one up in the 3 months of fall. So by December I can finish up Rule of Wolves because this is again another series I want to finish by the end of the year because then I will be complete with the Grishaverse. And I believe this follows Zoya and Nikolai, which are characters we meet in Shadow and Bone trilogy, and they're a little bit in, I know Nikolai was a little bit in the Six of Crows duology as well. But I really liked Nikolai. I liked Zoya. We didn't get too much of Zoya in The Shadow and Bone. She was in there, but we never really got like her POV or a lot about her. She was just basically introduced, and she was a side character that was more prevalent than others, but I would like to see how her and Nikolai's own book plays out. Then another series that I want to get caught up on by the end of the year is the Alex Stern series by Leigh Bardugo. This is going to be a Leigh Bardugo heavy fall TBR. There's still one more book, but it'll probably be the last one I talk about. And this is Hellbent, which is the second in that series following Ninth House. There is supposed to be a third one. It has not been named. It has not been given a release date, but it is listed on her website as a trilogy. So this is like a dark academia fantasy. I don't really know how to describe it. It's a weird magic system. Like, it has to do with the houses at the Ivy League schools. There's like elite houses that you can get in secret societies and stuff you can belong to. And it has to do with like their rituals and everything that they're doing under the cover of darkness. And Alex, who is our main character in this series, can see what they call the gray ones, I believe it was. It's been a few months since I read Ninth House. So basically she can see the dead people that are being like summoned and are like attracted to this activity that these secret societies are doing. And she has to help keep them away from the ceremonies and stuff that are happening because they can wreak havoc on that. That's pretty much the gist of it. But then like her mentor goes missing in the first book and everyone thinks he's dead, but she's convinced that he's just like stuck somewhere in some type of like in-between world. And that, I believe, is what this book's going to focus on, is like how to get him out of that, hopefully. In a nutshell, that's what I got out of the first one. It is a very complex magic system. It is definitely more so you have to pay attention than you do in like her Grishaverse, but I did enjoy it. We will see how this goes. I would read the trigger warnings if you've never read Ninth House because there is some like weird stuff that happens. Nothing, I don't think extreme, but there is some like weird hazing stuff that goes on. So if that may bother you, I'd read the trigger warnings first, but excited for that book. The next one I want to read is When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker, this gigantic brick of a book. I've heard nothing but good things. All I know is that there's dragons, and this has been like a lot of people's favorite fantasy romance of the year, and it has been compared to a lot of books that I really enjoyed, so I'm excited to get started on this one, although it will take me forever. I believe it is on Kindle Unlimited, so I may read it on there just because it's massive, but I'm very excited to start this series. It is part of the Moonfall series, and I had to buy the book just because of how beautiful it was, and I just have a feeling I'm really going to love it. General synopsis is she's an assassin for the rebellion group, and when a rival bounty hunter turns her world upside down, blood spills, heart breaks, and she finds herself imprisoned by the Guild of Nobles, a group of powerful fae who turn her into a political statement. Crushed by the loss of his great love, Khan took the head of the king and donned his melted crown. Now on a tireless quest to quell the never-ebbing ache in his chest, a clue lures him into the capital's high-security prison where he stumbles upon an imprisoned Rave. Echoes of the past race between them. There's more to their story than meets the eye, and some truths are too poisonous to swallow. So I'm very excited for this book. I've heard nothing but good things. I don't think I've heard anybody not like this book. I've heard some people say it takes a while to get into, but that's kind of par for the course with any new fantasy book series. So very excited. Then I have one that could be considered a fantasy, could be considered a romance, but I put it with fantasy because it is part of like the Omegaverse, and that is Allie Hazelwood's Bride. This is about a vampire and a werewolf that are forced into marriage to help their clans, tribes, whatever, get along. That's all I really know about it. It's Allie Hazelwood. She has not missed yet for me. I'm very excited to see how her fantasy book is. I've loved her romances. I loved her YA book, even though nobody else liked that one. I feel like I liked Check and Mate so much. It might be one of my favorites. I think it might have been the highest rated one I gave her, but I love her STEMinist books because there is a physical attraction, but there's also very much like a cerebral attraction, and that's something that I really look for, so I liked that. So we'll see. This is probably going to be more smut and attraction that they can't help because of what they are, but that's fine. I'm excited. I've heard mixed reviews, but I'll make my own opinion. Then I have Belladonna by Adeline Grace. This is, I believe, like a romance with death. I don't know too much about this. I do know it's YA. A lot of people loved Belladonna but didn't necessarily like Foxglove, which is the second book. I will probably still get that one just because these books are stunning and I want them on my bookshelf. But it looks interesting. It's about like a girl who it seems like death follows her everywhere, and like her family just like dies, I think, whenever she's around them. And there's just like a murderer that's, I guess, like killing her whole family. So the best chance of uncovering who it is an alliance with death himself. And he's like someone that's never far from her side. Though he's made her life a living hell, death shows Signa that her growing connection may be more powerful and more irresistible than she ever dared imagine. Looks interesting. I know a lot of people loved this one, so I'm not worried about liking Belladonna. It's the rest of the series that has me a little concerned. So we shall see. Another series I want to catch up on by the end of the year is Emily Wilde's series. I think it's just like Emily Wilde series. And this is the second book, which is Emily Wilde's Map of the Other Lands by Heather Fawcett. The third book comes out in February, so I do want to get this read by the end of the year, so when that comes out, I can just continue to stay on track. And I believe this just follows this is a cozy fantasy, so there's not like a high stakes war or anything going on. This is just about Emily Wilde trying to write this Encyclopedia of Fairies and get it published, and also be like recognized as a powerful, knowledgeable person in her field. And there's Bamblebee, who is like kind of a love interest at this point. This is just the continuation of their adventures from the first book, as well as like, and things that were like brought up towards the end of the first book between them. So I'll be interested to see where that part of the story goes. This one looks like it might be a little bit higher stakes based on what's written on the back, but I don't want to go too much into it because it is in a series and it's the second book. So very excited to continue this. The first book was really cute, really fun, and I think this will just be a nice like different paced fantasy to break up some of maybe more of the higher stakes ones. And then finally, rounding out not only the Fall TBR, but the Leigh Bardugo part of my TBR is her newest book, The Familiar. And this takes place during the Spanish Inquisition time, I believe. And I think there's vampires in this. Please hold. So this seems like this girl, Louisa, has powers that like the family she's working for doesn't know about, and then eventually they find out about them and make her go work for, I think, the disgraced secretary to the Spanish king, which is Antonio. And they're going to try to use her to have an advantage in the war against England. And he uses her to regain the king's favor. So it says, like, determined to seize the one chance to better her fortunes, Louisa plunges into a world of seers and alchemists, holy men and hucksters, where the lines between magic, science, and fraud are never certain. But as her notoriety grows, so does the danger that her Jewish blood will doom her to the Inquisition's wrath. She will have to use every bit of her wit and will to survive, even if that means enlisting the help of Gillian Santigel, an embittered, immortal familiar whose own secrets could prove deadly for them both. So I don't know if he's a vampire, because familiars aren't vampires to my knowledge. They're like helpers for witches, but that could be different in this book. I don't know, but very excited for this. I obviously have loved everything Leigh Bardugo has ever written, and that will round out her backlist for me. So I'm very excited to get that, and the other books that I have on this TBR will help round out the backlist that I have for her, which I would like to have finished by the end of the year. That is it. Those are the 15 books I want to read in the months of September, October, and November. Obviously, along with some other books that'll pop up, but those are the ones that are a priority TBR for me over the fall months. And I'm very excited to read all of them. Obviously, I purchased them. I'm excited to read them. If you've read any of these books, let me know in the comments. Let me know which one you're most excited for me to read. Even if you haven't read it, if you want to know what my thoughts are on it, let me know. I'm very excited to get into the fall reading time. I love fall, and the types of books that I just want to read in the fall are more my speed. I've been very much on a romance kick in the summer, but obviously romance books aren't the only type of book I read. I am actually more favored towards thrillers and fantasy, and once it gets colder and gets darker, those are the books I reach for. So I'm very excited to have the fall time upon us again. Thank you so much for watching, and if you liked my content, be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of the other videos, and I hopefully will see you in the next one.